Hey, this is Cam from Axiom IT. We've been talking to a lot of clients about building the hybrid workspace, and we find that a lot of people are still struggling trying to get that perfect blend together. So we've decided to hit the road and talk to a number of experts in their field. These are people that have had many years of this work in this particular area, and we're going to put a camera in front of them and get some insights as to what actually works and really get some good nuggets of information. So make sure that you come along, watch the videos with us, and also leave your comments below and let us know what you've been trying and what you've found works and maybe what doesn't work as well. Anyway, let's not delay, let's not hang around, let's get on the road and let's get going. Hey, this is Cameron from Axiom IT, and today we're here with Kirsty. Kirsty is from On Point Solutions. Kirsty, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, welcome to my home.
Thank you.
Good to see you. The flight in from Brisbane. It's
emotional, damn it!
always a bit of a trek on a cold day.
100%.
So me, okay. On Point Solutions. I've had my business for about 6.5 years now in its current form. It's had other forms in the past, but in terms of adoption, it's been about 6.5 years now. I am a Microsoft 365 adoption specialist, so I have to kind of put the 365 in front.
Yeah, so I can't just give you my kids. And...
No, I don't love kids. That mine, yes, but others, no. So adoption is very much about change management, comms, training, analysis. So it's that whole end-to-end piece, and I'm focused on Microsoft technology.
Oh,
so
great.
That's the whole end-to-end. If they're rolling out devices or they're rolling out Microsoft 365 or security or whatever. So that's kind of my core space. And apart from On Point as a business, I'm also a Microsoft MVP.
Oh, great.
So that's a most valued professional. I do try to make sure they don't give me minimum viable product at 5 foot. But
I made a funny.
That also helps.
Yeah, that's it. With running the adoption user groups for Australia, I've been doing that now for 5 years. So across Australia, do a lot of community work. That's what we get awarded for. So, speaking
Fantastic.
and talking about, hybrid work, for
Yeah,
example.
and that's how we met.
Yes.
From the adoption group.
Yeah.
So let's just dive in. Let's talk about hybrid work. Now, hybrid work is it's the hybrid conversations that's happening around inside the media news, on TV. It's happening on Facebook. It's happening on LinkedIn. It's also touches on the flexibles area as well. So how would you describe the hybrid work model or the situation that we're talking about compared to other hybrid things?
I suppose we have to consider hybrid's been around for a really long time. It's just taken a bit of a new form, I suppose, after having been through a pandemic, because it's a lot more of the workforce is forced into hybrid. And hybrid being that negotiated how many days are you in the office to working from home. It's being able to have more than one place to work out. And my take on it, and hybrid is more around, working home, working office, not necessarily even working from the cafe or working in another office to the main office. So,
right.
It's that hybrid and having that division and an understanding of the personal to the business world and having them kind of starting to merge together a little.
Right.
With the hybrid working home.
Right.
Office.
So I guess for a lot of businesses, it's them, and this is part of the series that we're doing, is that it's business trying to figure out what that hybrid model looks like for them.
Yeah. And it's different for every business that you work with. I mean, have you got a ton of frontline staff, for example? Do you know, it's a lot harder sometimes to do hybrid with certain roles. So you need to define, even for a role, within a business can be different, let alone the business itself. So
Right.
we have different models for hybrid, even amongst that as well, depending on the type of roles.
So would you say that that the new hybrid model is that the new normal? Would you say?
It's always been the normal, but not necessarily always offered as the normal.
Right.
Okay? When you think about it, I mean, even back when we had international teams and we were just doing often work hybrid, but it was sort of via phone and they were literally out of an office at home and the rest of the team were... So it's been around a long time, but technology has changed the hybrid component. So, that's kind of what we're here and talking about is some of the things around, well, what has tech done as well to hybrid?
Yep.
So it has changed the nature of it, without a doubt.
Do you think some businesses would consider this as a bit of a fad? Do you think hybrid's going to be talked about for a year and then they're going to go, look, that's going to go away. Everyone's going to go back to the office. How can things continue with people working at home all the time?
So that's that. Is it the new normal? Well, I think that, and based on what we're seeing, a lot of people, that whole great move in terms of work, they're saying they want it as their normal.
Right.
And the businesses that tend to be going, no, we want you back in again, they're fighting against it. I have a friend who is literally that. So you need to be back in the office because they've got office space that they're paying for and no one's here. He's going, hang on, but we've managed to successfully do our work from home. And we can at least do it 2 days a week and one or two in the office, which is what we've been doing out of our 5-day or 4-day week. At least 1 day at home because I actually get stuff done.
That's right.
So it's like, no, I don't want to go back to that older model because I find that so much time gets wasted when I'm in the office. Let me just get my job done.
Right.
So then it's got to be, well, and that you have to fight really hard to even maintain that 1 or 2 days at home and had to do big lists of reasons why.
Oh, wow. So she had to convince the boss.
Absolutely convince them.
It's going to work and
But
this is
it wasn't
how
even
it's
just
going
her.
to work.
It was her and the other staff all got together, nutted out a huge plan as to how they were all going to work, who was going to be in the office when, who was supporting each other when,
Right.
to then argue around what days to be in the office.
So ideally, should that be done by the employee or should that be done by the boss, do you think?
It's
or
both.
the
And this is where it's got to be somewhat negotiated. There's got to be what's the business needs, because there is going to be business needs.
Right, yep.
In the hybrid work. I mean, we see it even online. Everyone has to come back into the office. Everyone. But there's not being inclusive. It's not being inclusive for the mum with small kids that might be sick or a partner who's looking after their wife or husband going through chemotherapy or, there's so many different models and trying to be inclusive. So then you have to go, it needs to be negotiated between, and it's conversations to be had. You've got certain business roles and processes, but then you've got to also be inclusive and look at the people that need it and what does that look like, and before you start sometimes making the demands.
Yeah. So would you say it's a bit of both sometimes? It's thinking about the needs of the staff and also thinking about the needs of the business. What does the business need to do to
ticking over?
To keep going?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you deal with tons of businesses all the time, and you get to see a lot of what other businesses are sort of doing. What things outside of adoption do businesses forget when trying to try to pivot to this model?
Yeah. Culture.
Culture,
is a
right?
really big one.
Yep.
What are the soft skills of the senior leaders? And that kind of all feeds into sort of the cultural side of things. We find that there's a lot of managers that just don't know how to manage a remote team and they're not taught. So it's education. So the education component, whether it's technology or soft skills, also setups. What does a office look like in terms of its setup to support that hybrid work or at home? They used to have, so for example, even with my daughter, she's going to kill me for talking about it, but anyway.
Go for it.
So, my daughter, she was a new starter at an organisation, a very big organisation, of which she didn't have a screen.
Right.
She didn't have an office chair. She was sitting on a kitchen chair that's hard and not in a great environment and wasn't provided a headset. She had to do calls all day, 180 odd calls, sometimes even in a day.
Wow.
So all day, hang on. So not only that.
What headset?
Yeah, that's it. So there's the tech, but then the flip of it was what did the orientation, the people, the culture, the setup, like let alone the tech side. Then there's the physical environment that you're in. So there's that sort of stuff. But being a new starter, what does that look like? She hasn't got anyone beside her, sort of mentoring to go, hang on, how do you do this again? You know,
Yep.
No one to sort of often talk to on their own. Hard to understand the business culture.
Yep.
When all you're doing is just starting work from home. So some of those misses are even, how do you make people feel like a team?
How do you include people?
The inclusiveness.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
there's so many different components that come with it. But there are a lot of jobs that you can't do hybrid. I mean, if you're working in kitchens, for example, and you've got to wash dishes, that, you know, it's not going to be hybrid. So we have to be very clear around
Yeah.
the type of businesses we're also talking about when we talk hybrid.
Yeah. So from what you've seen as far as some businesses go, what successful things have they done to really make hybrid work, would you think? That some easy takeaways that...
Okay.
Yeah, so some things that you've seen that well, that's a great idea. For example, planning a morning meeting, for example, or making sure that the staff have got a headset.
Headset's a big one.
Right.
The headset was a huge one. There was recently a whole unified communications program rolling out to thousands of people and not a headset supplied.
Wow.
So hang on, you're doing calling on a device, and so people are plugging in their Apple headsets, for example, and that's an OH&S issue. You get reverberation, there is no protection in your ears.
Or they're just yelling into laptops.
And there's no noise cancelling, so all the noise and the kids in the background and
Yep.
So headset, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the device, giving them a screen.
Right.
They're now using. If you're not paying in the office for, you know, all the bandwidth potentially on internet connection and stuff, why aren't you then paying for at least a percentage of the internet at home?
Yes.
For people. So what does the allowances look like for people at home?
Yep.
Because if they're going to, and we see it, there's how many empty offices are in Melbourne in the buildings. I know in Sydney there's empty offices everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
They're saving on real estate. You look at just the real estate cost, then put it back into your staff.
Yeah, so reinvest what you're saving. What you're saving from people working remote work and hybrid work, pop that back in to other areas of spending to really help the business in that,
they
that
didn't
hybrid
have
model.
it for a while there because a lot of businesses got hit really hard. Some didn't, some absolutely flourished, but to put it back into the staff in some way.
Yeah.
We've seen it where they're going, as a business, you need to take a pay cut instead if you're going to stay from home. What?
Yeah.
That I don't understand.
I think we saw that early on.
Yeah.
People were saying, hey, we're only going to pay you 4 days a week and not 5 because we don't know how long you're going to watch Netflix for example, or whatever.
That's trust. That's another really big one in terms of culture.
Okay.
So trust, especially at the very beginning, staff getting micromanaged. Massive, so many calls in a day, it's not funny, from senior leaders or people trying to connect, and death by meeting.
Yeah.
I watch the statistics, because I do analysis as adoption.
Right, yep.
And I will bring up all the research, sort of the back-end reporting, and we saw emails and the whole calling, if they did have Teams calling, for example, and meetings, and you could see it, and they were already up and running on 365.
Right.
It just went through quadrupled in the amount of emails that just went around. It's unbelievable. Just went over the top. It's because people, one, often didn't know how to communicate. Yep. Hybrid. Two, culture of trust. Not there. Phone. What are you doing? What are you doing? What
What, are you actually doing any work? You know.
Or even looking at the presence in Skype or Teams or whatever they were using. And just going, you're not at your desk.
Why didn't you pick up the call?
That's it. So it's the culture of trust and setting up the boundaries for your staff and expectations.
Okay.
But in the management side of things, they weren't taught the soft skills to manage a remote team to make you feel connected and inclusive.
Right.
Some were really good. When you talk about what were some of the successes, were things like they did a Friday, every couple of weeks they do a Friday lunch together, and the organisation said the money that we're saving here, we're putting into Ubers to deliver lunches for your team. So you sit down and everyone had a lunch. They did pizza lunch or whatever. And they'd have it delivered, or workshopping.
That's a good idea.
All those sorts of little things.
Yeah, so they do lunch and learn, and they order order in. Oh, that's
Or they got given a budget. So the individual goes, here is a Uber. You can do Uber Eats vouchers. So I know that, with my daughter's company, they get they don't get charged for the delivery and then there's a discount or something. So they could actually order in Uber if they wanted for lunch and it would be cheaper.
Oh, great.
So little things like that would help, because you need to remember in a hybrid, and I mean, I know for myself, let alone everyone I talk to, if you're in a city like Sydney or Melbourne, how long is it to work? Are you driving? Are you on a bus? Can you do work? You're giving yourself back an hour sometimes on either end of the day to be productive. Let alone the chats, and you can kind of focus a little more when you're at home, depending on the setup. You know, there's plenty where you got kids at home potentially, and then they just want to get out and need to be in the office.
So I guess there's a lot of tools that's inside the Microsoft stack that that businesses can. I guess it's an important part of the hybrid strategy. So using things like Viva Insights and things. Now, but they're all new tools that that Microsoft have only recently developed and come out with. So to learn more about those sorts of things, you cover those sorts of things in your adoption.
People understanding what Viva Insights is even doing from the back end, from the those that have got access to the reports, let alone the front end when you get the whole book yourself some focus time, those sorts of things, and understanding what it's actually there and what it's doing. And you can come up with business programs where you're going to measure before and after. So there's that. But there's so much tech to support hybrid. Amazing amount of tech. Let alone, does the laptop have a camera? You know, the laptop, if they haven't and they're using their home PC, and what does that look like for experiences? You know, what are the devices? I've also seen it where their devices, they're not touchscreen with no pen. They're expected to sign off on things, and they're using paper and pens, and instead of doing note taking on OneNote and whiteboarding. So you can whiteboard. Even in a meeting to whiteboard. And they've got no pen to whiteboard. It's like,
I can't participate. I can't fill in well, that actually that's a good segue into the next bit. The next question I had was hybrid fails. Like you've seen, like I've got some real doozies. So I speak for myself. Is that we had a meeting at work, and the Taz and Long said, "Great, we'll send out." It was Friday afternoon drinks, and we're gonna, you guys can have a champagne on us or whatever it was. But I missed out on that, and I actually found that my letterbox didn't have the correct street number. It was there, but it just wasn't clear enough. So I ended up having to go out to Bunnings to make sure that the number on my letterbox was clear, because I definitely didn't want to miss out on that lunch and learn or the Friday afternoon catch-up drinks and all that sort of stuff. So that was my technology. That's my hybrid fail. Not really technology focused, but it's a hybrid fail. What have you seen?
So many. It's not funny. And not only that, because I'm an MVP, I support in forums and use, so the forums and stuff.
So you see a lot.
Well, people will giggle and laugh around, what's been the worst thing that's happened to you. And in Microsoft, in terms of the education space, because I would help out. I mean, you had teachers globally that were thrown in the deep end using Microsoft Teams. So people can't learn when they're under that kind of pressure. So that was some of the difficulties around hybrid, because when you're under those kind of pressures, it's very difficult to start learning. So it's all just in time, and people are then just ask the question, how do I turn on audio when I want to share my screen? Just something as simple as that. But they had a question in there going, what's the worst things that's happened with your kids in the classroom?
Oh, wow.
Can you just imagine? It was naked parents walking along behind the camera, or kids taking their laptops. And it's been adults, in terms of taking the laptop into the bathroom with them, forgetting that it's on. They turn it on when they're in their bed. These are the sorts of things. But in terms of my own, I had... because I've got a big house and it's very cement and 2 stories, the office upstairs was fine for doing certain things, but to do full day long or 3-day workshops with an internet connection that's not brilliant, that the bandwidth got hammered all around Australia for most of the providers. We just weren't ready to have so many people in the community, rather than the cabling that they have in a city to support hybrid. I mean, that's been changing and shifting. They've really made some big progress there, but we've still got some real challenges in terms of some of the supporting infrastructure, I suppose, to help us in Australia.
I guess what with the hybrid fails as well and technology goes, how much of it have you seen where that the business just doesn't have their technology tuned for hybrid? It's not. It's IT that was designed like 10 years ago. It worked great. You know, like they've got great servers and everything else. But fast forward to 2022. Is that very widespread that you see businesses in those situations? Yeah. Okay.
It's a mess because there was so much of we need to support hybrid because they can't come to the office. Like, legally, you're not allowed to. Gov said.
You can't.
No, you can't unless you've got a very good reason. We still had to have trains being run, or we still had those certain frontline workers. But everyone else got home, and businesses, and I still know businesses that are out there that are going, you're not allowed in the office yet. Yeah. So they're absolutely not allowed. Yeah. So when you force people into home environment and then you haven't got the tech to support it, we saw a lot of it where we set up Microsoft 365, for example. They haven't really had it before. It was a massive lift and shift data dump. There was no organisation. There was no training because it was often not the budget. They're letting go of people. Right. Yep. We're coming out the other end of it now, and this is where it becomes really important around what does hybrid look like to support it moving forward. Right. That education now. Yes. Education is just a huge one. The learning in terms of the tech and the soft skills. And with the tech that went with it, so the mess was people just using chat. Right. And doing meetings. Right. But not collaborating. Still emailing the documents around. So they've got a large part of their workforce out of the office. They're now working at home, and still people are in that situation. But they're not, that they need training for these new tools that people are saying, why aren't you in this meeting? Can we collaborate on a document together? Have you seen the plan? And all these pieces of technologies, they haven't adopted before COVID, and now after the pandemic. Oh, it's even more of a mess. Right. Okay. And one of the reasons why is it's never just one thing. They've still got the on-premise service potentially, and all of the other, and they're VPNing in, and then people don't know, or they've had to do Cisco remote, some kind of remote in. Right. Yep. So they've got half of the desktop or half of their working environment is in the new place. All right. They've got half still in the old. Right. Or some stuff that haven't even, like people who haven't even been migrated. Yeah. So then people aren't able to connect and talk, and so we're right in the middle of, and I say with any kind of a rollout. So for example, if you're rolling from one to another, there's always a pain point that sits in the middle as it's a bit messy as you go through. Right. We're in the messy. Right. Okay. It hit messy a while ago. We're still in the messy, but we're starting to come back out where things, they kind of go, it's been such a mess now. Yep. We're finally in a point where we can breathe. Okay. And we're coming out we're coming slowly now. I'm seeing it now, starting to come out, and think about how do we what does good and best practice on collaboration and communication look like? Right, okay. And that also helps with the hybrid. Yeah. Because if you're doing good communication and good collaboration, hybrid, some of those pain points of hybrid start to level out. Yes. Okay. Yeah. You don't have good communication and collaboration, exactly. You're not going to get to the next bit. Don't even think about automation or think about. You've got to still get the basics done. Even just getting past chat and meetings in something like Teams, let alone go to automate stuff when they don't even know how to get into Teams and work on documents, let alone add in an app or bots or. So thinking about all that for a moment, what we're really talking about is getting the basics right at the start. So ensuring that we didn't have that for so long. We never had the basics right. And then everyone worked at home, and then the need for getting the basics set up right was even harder. It put more pressure on a system that didn't work properly even when we were in the office. Look, some did it well. Yep. I mean, we can't say it's everyone. It's absolutely not everyone. I've seen it done beautifully in some organisations. Really done beautifully.
Yeah, I think. I know that the clients that are on Axiom Cloud at the moment, they didn't actually need to do much at all. They just took their computers home, turned it on, and off they went. Yes, there was a few headsets, and yes, there was a few internet connections we had to fix and all that sort of stuff. But I think businesses shouldn't be overwhelmed with the complexity of this. Is that they should really start with getting the basics right, which is how we're going to get people to adopt. What's our strategy look like for there? So I guess that they can chat to yourself for those sorts of things, but also having more discussions around what does their IT service platform actually look like, and is it hybrid friendly?
Yeah.
You know, which naturally
Well,
we
if
could.
if you've got good people around you to give you good advice, it's going to be a lot smoother.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differing opinions,
Yep.
without a doubt. But if you don't, it's like anything. I can't do bookkeeping, just so I have a business, but I have a bookkeeper. You know, I can't do accounting. I can't do. You bring in the right people with the
Yep.
right tools to do the right job, and
Yes.
so as long as you got those helping on the journey, you can then untangle. But it's always much harder, and this is the one thing I will say. When it comes to change management, with being a change manager, to try and fix things after the fact is always going to take it harder and longer and more costly than to do it right from the start.
From the start.
Because you've got to untangle. You've got to untangle negative opinions.
Yep.
Because you've got to try and turning a negative opinion around
Yep.
it's hard work.
Yeah.
Then getting it right at the beginning and getting people excited
Yeah.
and thinking it out and doing it as a progress and process sort of and follow it right through with
Right.
a lot of research either side, analysis, and good change management, good comms, so people know what's coming.
Correct. Yeah. I guess from the other side as well is that we see clients contacting us and saying we just want to use Teams. We're going to go hybrid and we're going to use Teams. They just think there's an app for that. We just need to install the app. We need someone to come here,
It'll solve everything.
install the app on our computers, and then we're done.
Yeah.
But really, just talking to you now, there's so much more that they need to consider.
Yeah.
But there's also an order to do this as well.
Yeah.
To make sure that the platform's done properly. So they should be talking to someone that knows and talks hybrid properly, that understands exactly what the needs of the business and also the staff. And that actually comes into culture, I guess, and you've probably seen this quite a lot. How difficult is it for a traditional sort of business that used to work in the office? What does that pivot sort of look like, trying to get the culture out to the staff that they're not just there, like between us, they're...
I had one that if you wanted to work from home, and then they had to put in a request 5 days before working from home.
What did they do in the 5 days?
5 days beforehand, before they were allowed to work from home. And that was right prior to the pandemic hitting. So this was a very staid gov type, it was like, so then you kind of go, what did that look like when I wasn't working there? You went, woohoo, that would have gone kapoof.
Wow.
And so that came down to managers that believe they need to see you to make sure you're doing your work.
Right.
Yeah?
Yes.
So what does that look like to educate a manager to shift them on the way that they work with their staff and not having the skill sets? I saw plenty of managers that go, oh no, I don't have any of my staff, telling me there's any problems. I was like, well, have you asked them? Oh, no.
Wow.
And it's like, don't stew them, they're going okay. So they weren't doing they weren't talking to them anymore. They weren't asking them. They were just doing meeting after meeting.
Yes.
They had no idea. They thought there was nothing wrong. I went, I want you to stop and ask them.
Yeah.
And then the boss that was phoning repetitively in terms of where was the staff, I just said to him, what's the core issue? What is that's not going on? He goes, well, I don't know what they're getting done. And I go, well, use whatever it is you use, like some kind of task management where it's transparent.
Yep.
And you can physically see as things are getting ticked off and you know where you're at on your actions. And we went, oh, that would probably work.
Yeah.
Because when people panic when they can't see what's happening,
Yes.
It's a bit like a mum.
It's the loss of control, yes.
Yeah. It is. It's absolutely. So it's like, what does good transparency look like? It can even be, I've seen the fails on even Outlook, and instead of it just being free busy, put the details in so people aren't booking over the top of.
Oh, so like I'll be back at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
You know.
It's teaching them all sorts of little skill sets, and I also would have managers too busy; they don't have time for this.
Right.
So then they'll drag the organisation back to pre-pandemic. All the staff are getting trained on it to move forward in a new way of working. But senior leaders then aren't given the same kind of haul them through. There aren't KPIs in place.
Right. Okay.
What does a digital workplace actually look like? What KPIs are your staff needing to meet?
Yep.
Do
Okay.
they get fired if they're not meeting the digital KPIs?
Yeah.
So from a cultural perspective, then there would be things like that come in and just teach us Teams being the latest product.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many
Here is
others.
the app, we need to install it.
Whatever
Yep.
is. Doesn't really matter what the tech is. Sorry, I'm playing with microphones.
Yeah.
And I would go in and they just want pure feature-based training. Click, 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 click. You know, this is Teams. These is where you're going to do chat and group and this and that. But it's not put into context for the business workplace.
Yep.
It's not put around a scenario. I often don't even like to use the word training. I say, I'm going to come in, I'm going to spend 2 hours workshopping with you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Staying connected and being hybrid, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to operate from an office 1 or 2 days a week, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll actually be at home. They might be on the road. They might be out and about. They might be doing some research. They might.
And we've been doing that a long time.
Yeah.
When you consider it.
So you know, and that sort of puts a good question, which is that the mobile phone.
Yeah.
What role do you see the mobile sort of playing in that hybrid strategy? So what should a business sort of be thinking about their hybrid strategy and the role of a mobile phone? Because it used to be, if you're in the office and you're on your mobile, you're probably on Facebook or something like that, or you're probably shopping or whatever, right? But there's been recently a big shift into doing actually productive work on the mobile phone as far as hybrid goes.
I do more work on my mobile phone than I do on any other device.
Right.
Okay, I've got an iPad, I've got my mobile phone, I've got about 5 laptops, so you know, as you do, lots of different ones. Different things that I'll use each one for. One that I leave downstairs here, it's in my cabinet, it's my downstairs beside the couch, my laptop, I've got the office laptop.
Is it because of the different form factors, or you're doing something downstairs, like you're on TV, or
and I don't want to go sit down at the desk. I just want to sit here and nut out a couple of things at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm having a cup of tea, and I've got the cat, and I've got my book, and I go, I need to do that.
Right.
And sometimes I need a bigger screen, but the mobile phone, I'm currently, doing training, and for the first time ever, it's a 1 hour session purely on how to use your mobile and working with Microsoft Teams and working on the go.
Right, okay.
A whole 1 hour session. And I will say regularly that if you're bringing in a trainer, because I do all the training side of things, and as part of building out change management, I said get yourself a good trainer that understands how to work on the go, and they can bring their mobile up on the screen going, if you're doing your OneDrive and you've got it syncing here and how to use it, show them the mobile phone and going, did you know you can press the plus button and just scan in all those documents or take photos or receipts and put them into SharePoint.
I guess talking about technology for a moment, it would be really important to make sure that the IT strategy and how the IT is rolled out in a business to make sure that that mobile phones are well supported as well. So if people they can't connect on, for example, Teams on the mobile, that their IT supports them so they can reach out and get help.
There's a lot of businesses that are very risk averse.
Right.
It's that whole, you can't have it on the mobile, or it needs to be a device that we've supplied to you.
Right.
In terms of mobile device management and all that, rolling it all out. However, in the days now of BYOD, you can have it pretty locked down when you roll out the tech to a device. So, I don't see it as an excuse, and I can see how it can be really locked down. Some staff, I think the one thing about it is, where is so you've got a desk phone, even so we've got the whole traditional sort of desk phone when we're not sitting at our desk. So is the phone then forwarded to the mobile phone, and people going, I don't want to use my mobile phone. The union also says we're not supposed to use our mobile phone.
Yeah.
So then you need to be in the office. You can't do hybrid because you can't even take calls. So, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So supporting that mobile phone, or is it a budget that you put towards? We're trying to what does it look like to pay staff for using their mobile phones? So you've got a budget towards it because you've got data plans.
Yes.
Or maybe you need to use your phone to tether, like
Yes. Okay.
internet connection at home.
Yeah,
I know
correct.
that's
Yep.
what my daughter had to do.
Yeah.
She was using her mobile phone.
Yeah.
She had no connection, no phone and nothing.
Yep.
It was literally no internet. It was her phone.
Wow,
was
plug
what
it in and off you go.
Yeah, she's been doing that now for months. That's what she uses.
Yeah, okay.
So how do you remunerate
Yeah.
around those sorts of things? So
Yeah.
if it's Teams and Teams calling,
Yep.
it just goes straight to a PC. Make
Yep.
sure you've got the headset.
Yep. Absolutely.
Make sure you
yeah.
get the headset. And then you teach people even how to use a headset.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, actually, that sort of goes into. So if the business asks you, what's the 5 things that we should look at first or get right for hybrid? Like, what are the must things that we shouldn't overlook? Like,
Right.
or probably a better way to ask is what 5 things do businesses get tripped up on?
Okay.
The big ones, the main ones.
Getting to documents and files.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
The device that they've been given,
Okay.
and that includes a headset.
Right.
The devices that they've actually got, a huge
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
The management support.
Okay.
So that kind of culture management support.
So the management support, not from an IT perspective, but from a work perspective.
It's soft skill and tech.
Okay.
It's both.
Yep.
They need to know both just as much as the employee do. They're having both. They need more, though, than the employee. Because
okay.
they've got to know how to
Yep.
manage hybrid.
Okay.
And that's been a big fail. We've seen quite a big fail in terms of some of that over time. I would say a couple of the other fails have been orientation programs, without a doubt.
Right.
We're seeing staff with older views or older ways of working buddied up with newer ways, potential individuals coming in
Okay.
and dragging back. We have over a 50% usual turnover in 3 years of a business.
Yeah, okay.
So who do they get buddied with to give
Right.
them new best practice for hybrid work?
That's a great tip. Yeah, fantastic. So just looking at all the apps that are available in the 365 space, in the Microsoft 365 space, what are the ones that you feel are more focused for hybrid work? Like it could be some of the old ones, it could be some of the new ones, but I know there's a lot of apps that a lot of businesses don't use because they just don't know what they do, or they haven't had adoption or training on those sorts of things. So what comes to mind?
My biggest ones are OneDrive.
OneDrive, yep.
The whole OneDrive SharePoint or the kind of thing.
Yep.
My core love, absolute love and passion, OneNote.
Yep. I can.
Literally.
I vote for that too.
Everything goes in.
Yeah.
Literally, from my personal world to my business world. I do cake decorating.
Yep.
I go and everything gets plugged in.
Yep.
Photos of everything and note taking and
Yep.
sending links to it of recipes and
Yeah.
everything goes into my OneNote. That's on a personal.
Yeah.
And I've
OneNote
done that
changed
for
my
hybrid.
life.
I know,
Yeah.
absolutely revolutionised the way that I work. So OneNote.
Yeah.
Then there's really is that document collaboration piece, and good document collaboration is just
Right.
absolutely cool because
Right.
it becomes a real mess if people don't know.
Yeah, they're still forwarding
yeah.
files everywhere via email,
Yeah.
and it's all.
So then it would go over to that the task management, which is really to do and lists. Because
Right.
for me, anything that comes from Planner, anything that comes from gets tagged as a task or flows into to do is my manna heaven of all things task management.
Yeah.
And it's an app on your
Yeah.
phone or
Yep.
on your PC or so.
Yeah.
And the more you use something like Planner or List, the more transparent you are around actions.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, you could be absolutely using Loop, because Loop will save into OneNote. You can use all of the new Loop products.
Yeah, and it all then comes all together.
Yeah, for good components for collaboration.
Yeah.
So what are the core key things around collaboration communication?
Yep.
If you can do unified communications, that untethers people from their desk.
Right.
So you're talking hybrid.
Yep.
UC is a really big one.
Yep.
It
Right.
really is in terms of untethering.
Yep.
So they can move around. Doesn't matter where they are then. You can be in a cafe or an airport or on the road in your car and you've got your phone, literally your mobile or your PC or whatever device you're using to untether you.
Okay, so that sort of falls into the whole mobile, using the mobile phone.
Yeah.
So I think when businesses are thinking about, trying to work out their pivot to hybrid, what would you say the ROI sort of looks like for a business if they're thinking about hybrid and they're thinking about, there's going to be a lot of costs and everything else? Is it worth the squeeze as far as them spending money on this and getting some sort of return on investment? Or do you think it's something that they have to do to survive?
There's a couple of things to unpack in that.
Yeah, in under 2 hours.
There's a couple of things to unpack. Because if you think about ROI and the way that you can look at, there's a lot of tech that's shadow tech inside a business, or it's tech that's used for a purpose. Don't go rolling out new tech just for the sake of rolling out new tech. Because if it's working and staff know it and know it really, really well, and it's cloud and they can work on the go and it supports hybrid, don't start replacing it for the sake of replacing it.
Right, so if it ticks all the boxes and it's working well...
Why put pain in place for staff when you don't need to... I've seen it happen where I'm going, why? It's working really well for you. Just don't touch it, kind of thing.
I guess there's other reasons why they might need to look at that. It might not be... connectivity, or might be not secure, or might be based on technology that no one knows anymore, and it's going to be a risk if that goes down.
I see a lot on the ROI as well where they're not using the tech. They're only using a really small amount, and it was just they did an Exchange migration, and they're just really using Outlook and nothing else.
Yeah, okay.
That's changed a lot now because of the pandemic. It's kind of pushed a lot of the new ways of working, without a doubt. But we're still seeing it even where, as I said, they're just doing chats and meetings, and they're not collaborating in teams. They're just crickets in teams.
Right, okay.
Literally crickets. And you kind of go, and you look at the results and you go, hey, go on, you've got 50 teams, but there's no activity.
So it's sort of like, it's almost sort of pivoting and saying the conversation's not really about ROI. It could be about using more of what they're currently paying for.
So if they get in and staff understand the benefit around why they should pivot from the old to the new, they've got to have a good reason why. So if you've got someone that's really pushing back on it, then you have to understand, what's the pain for them to move to the next step? That's what change management is: conflict negotiation, conflict resolution. Really. That's truly what it's about. So if you've got to move someone from one state to another, what was the barrier? What's that pain point? What do they think they're going to lose? Or what are they, because they don't often understand what the gain is. They just feel like they're going to lose on moving.
Yes.
So change is very much about
Right, so they
pain.
should think about the positive effect of it.
But it's hard sometimes. You can articulate as a whole for the business. So you've got to go, what's the mission or the strategy to get to your ROI? If the individual in a business does not understand what the business strategy around why you're doing it, if IT is rolling it out, they could not give a flying frig around what IT's doing, because they've got to keep a job. You've got to do that because that's just your latest. It's like, I don't need to do it. You just do your thing over there. Can I just still keep Office 2007 on my laptop?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you want to bring them on the journey. They've got to have a really good reason as to why. So the business has got to be able to be very clear in articulating the why.
Right,
For the ROI.
Oh, right, okay. So that all ties in with that.
Filters down to and going to where the people are.
Right, okay.
Now, on hybrid, that can get a little more
tricky.
So I've seen kits being sent out.
Right.
I mean, even with us being MVP, so they send packs out in the mail. They'll send a box out with. We had all sorts of little cool things that came in the kit that was all techie to help us be able to work from home. Even a mask, an MVP mask.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we had the whole, for the pandemic.
All right.
So it's like, what supports people working from home? Here's a kit bag of all things that can help you to work from home. It was headset with some fun, funky little things that were in a kit. So what could you do to, and not just from home, but what did the desk look like when you got there? If you leave your headset at home, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly, And so it's like, how am I going to manage throughout the day?
Moving from one office to the other.
Well, I guess, do you see that existing IT services work with hybrid? Like, can someone just say, hey, you know, we love your adoption and your change management with Microsoft. We'll get Kirsty in. We'll install these new software programs, everything else. Or does business really need to have a look at their IT to make sure it's tailored or compatible with hybrid that you've seen?
But you can't do one without the other.
Right, okay.
I can come in and give the best possible solution, and the tech is not set up for it.
So if they're still
it's
using
broken.
Dropbox, or they're still saving things on the
broken.
desktop,
Yeah. And now I've got multiple things that they've got to learn. They're going, hang on, which ones do we put where?
Right.
Like, I'm so confused. Don't we still have trim? Yes, you still have trim. Well, aren't I supposed to put it into trim? Yes, but you could.
Yeah, okay.
So they get really confused then.
Yep.
When it comes to, I suppose, does it work? You can have really good tech and then crickets and no one. I mean, how many multi-million-dollar massive programs on rollouts of tech that we've seen over the years that have been huge fails, and there's 2 people in a 10,000 organisation that are using the tech that they did a huge project on, CRMs or whatever. So you can have good tech and then no one helping them on how or why to use it.
Okay.
We can help them on how or why to use it, and it's so broken, they think it's the problem of Microsoft or forever, whatever, and they haven't got a good tech solution, or it's just this mass shadow and hasn't been cleaned up and it's not really prepared or ready. So both of them have to come together.
Right.
So hence why you do that. So the Axiom get the tech, and then, like an adoption partner or a change or training or whoever you use to come together to do both. But it's never just even those two. You've got a business.
Right. So should they look at one then the other, or should they look at it
They've got
concurrent?
To go concurrent.
Right.
So when I'm coming in on a program, some of the tech decisions are going, what are you doing? Do you realise the moment you go off with that button, do you understand the risk for the end user?
Yes.
And that they're now just going to go completely around you. They'll just email it out instead.
Exactly,
Okay?
yeah.
So, or they'll go and use their own personal Dropbox, which you can't control because they've now got all this stuff outside and they're actually
With their own
breaching.
sign-in.
Yeah, they're breaching usually their HR agreements. People don't realise they go start using all this other tech. And next minute they're breaching all agreements because they got personal stuff in repositories where it's not supposed to be.
Well,
they will go around you.
Yeah, so it's not really hybrid. That's not a hybrid strategy. That's really a shadow IT, which is...
It's a combination of different things because if you're not thinking about it holistic to the tech, then there's all the what is the journey. So there might be internal change managers and comms managers and training and business analysts and you name it. So you've got a whole team of people working alongside all the technical guys to make it right.
Yep.
But the business has to come into play in all of that to make sure that it's going to work. Because if they're not, I could come in and say, these are all the great emails, they're not rolling it out or they're not doing it or they go, no, we want to turn that off and they're not actually taking on board some of best practice. We've seen a lot of it in security alone where there's old mindset in organisations and they don't understand the latest around how they could make it more secure. So they turn things off. They just shut it all down.
Oh, wow.
And then staff go, this is broken. Why can't I click on it?
Yeah. So really, they should look at it as the same process at the same time and say, look, we need to address our IT. We need to partner with someone that's savvy with hybrid, and we also need to partner with someone that also can help us utilise and use those services such as yourself.
They get it.
Yeah. Looking at about how many businesses out there that have done the successful pivot to hybrid, would you say it's a minority, majority, or everyone sort of? Is this the start of a process, or?
Look, some are doing it. Some are doing it well.
Yep.
But they really are. They've been forced to. But like any business, not everyone within a business is doing it well. Okay, so you might have them doing it well, but it comes with people, and people are unpredictable and come with different skills. So if you haven't got a good program and orientation to keep upgrading those skills too, like a constant adoption doesn't stop at the end of rolling it out.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, geez, Teams alone in the last year had over 700 updates, let alone all the new tech. If you've seen my infographic, the Wheel of Fortune.
Yes, I did. Yep.
I have had something like 18 or 19 updates over the last couple of years because this is a whole new product coming in or going out, by the way.
Yeah.
Like video went out and Stream came in and lists came in and To-Do came in and Planner came in. And you think about all this new tech that comes in that starts to fill. We've now got ClickChamp has been purchased.
Right.
We had 4 Vivas, components. Now there's a 5th with Viva Goals.
Wow.
So it's always constantly evolving. So each time it evolves, it's a perfect opportunity to go back out and go, we need to do some educational lifting. Like goals and insights and learning and all that sort of stuff is a great opportunity to go do some analysis, because it's all there, it's all online tech. And you can plug in other tech around analysis or other processes or programs or automation or apps or whatever you want to do. But you can see it now because it actually captures the information online.
Yeah, and you can see it as a single.
Where have they come from? Measure it. It's no good measuring at the end if you haven't got a baseline to start with.
Right.
So you want your ROA, which we were talking about. What's your baseline to see, did you get your return on your investment?
On investment, have we actually improved productivity, or or have we actually gone backwards, perhaps?
Yeah, and it's productivity. It's all sorts of things. It just could be, you got your device kind of. How's your devices performing? Even did you choose the right device?
Yep. So thinking about businesses pivoting to hybrid, they're going to look at the process of updating their IT to make sure it's hybrid compatible, and when they're thinking about the adoption piece, can they do it on their own, like just using the built-in help, or where does an adoption specialist like yourself come in, and how does it help a business pivot to hybrid? Does it speed up the time? Does it make it more? Do they get better ROI? From what you've seen, as far as, or when new clients contact you, do they see it as they're already desperate? They've already tried to get things working. Nothing's worked. They're in a bit of a crisis. No one knows how to use this,
and you have to. Above,
okay.
You do. You have them come in all sorts of forms.
Yeah.
There are some that bring in adoption specialists, and then they go, no, we're going to roll this out piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. They're 6 months on this one, and then all of a sudden they're 3 or 4 years down the track, and then they try and bring it all together, and they've got to start all over.
Oh, wow.
So, that's not good adoption.
Yeah.
It absolutely speeds it up. Hands down will speed it up. You get good adoption process, it then will feel seamless. So it shouldn't be painful.
So talking to an expert like yourself means that the outcome will be better, and they'll potentially save money, because if people are using the tools, I'd imagine people using the tools faster and better and quicker, that's got to be better for the business.
Absolutely. When you look at, so if you're doing any kind of measurement, and you do a lot of it with what we do, we measure the befores and the after.
Oh, so how people are using the utilities and how they're using the apps.
Success, and are they sending links out? How much time? We can even ask them, how much time did that save you on pilots? From here, measure it before, now measure it, how long did it take? So there is measurements, and Microsoft have also got lots of measurements. There's all the ROI of Microsoft 365 and Unified Communications and all sorts of stuff. Meeting rooms, I think there's an ROI. You get your Total Economic Index white papers, for example.
Okay.
All of that's in there in terms of measurement.
Yep.
So you can have a look at it. But if we measure, then it's easy on, even if it's just a really short, quick pilot, hard, dirty, tiny little pilot, run it, have a look at what it looks like, choose a variety of people, but they've got to talk together, because good communication and collaboration.
Right.
No use having them over different states and they have nothing to do with each other.
Right, yeah.
Crickets,
Exactly.
But the people within the organisation, rounding back to where you started on your question, was, there are going to be champs within a business.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people that are ambassadors that are going to help drive it forward really fast.
Okay.
Long after I've left, they're the ones that are going to keep driving it. So who is your support network? What does it look like? And keep them fed.
Right.
What's all the latest? What are the rewards for doing it? Do you have their senior leader approval for them to keep it? Do you listen to them? So having that network of your internal specialists that then can be buddied and mentored with people coming in or struggling will take it a long way.
It certainly sounds like there's a lot involved, but from my sort of takeaway is that if you engage an expert like yourself, it makes the process somewhat easier, but also it just makes better sense.
I think the thing is, when you bring in the expert, that drip under pressure, the expert.
Yeah. That's easy.
When you bring in someone like that, it's because they've had the experience and they can tell you this is some of the best practice, or this is what I've seen. When you go down that path,
Yep.
this is what goes wrong, this is what goes right.
Right.
They can either listen or not listen, like anything.
Right.
So I usually put it in writing. Okay, you're not listening to that expert advice. That's fine by me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But the difference is, we aren't islands.
Right.
And if you treat yourself like the island, you're never going to know which way it should be going. You're just making an assumption. And we know
Right.
that whole assumption can make an ass out of you or me.
Yep,
Do you know what I mean?
yep.
So you make the assumption that we're going to do it, and we're going to do it this way. And you haven't brought in the people that understand what it's going to look like when you go either way.
Yep.
Okay? Or intermediate. Look, you don't want to do it completely that way. At the very minimum, these are the good, better, best. So we can give you,
Right.
the bad. Should you completely ignore what's the good, what's the better, what's the best. So if we can give you a range, you can decide at least what risk you're going to take in terms
Yeah.
of change management.
Yeah.
Same with tech.
Yeah.
No different.
Yeah.
What risk are you willing to take on that journey to where you're going to go? So, and it comes down to who you're dealing with as to what level of risk. I've had it plenty of times. You do training plus minus 2 days of rolling something out. Cannot guarantee you're going to get,
The outcome that you want.
Yeah,
But certainly, it sounds like it's a huge help and a good step in the right direction. Thinking about what's on the horizon for business. So at the moment, it sounds like we're all starting to learn about strategies on how to build our own hybrid strategy. But what do you see on the horizon for businesses, for the ones that, the ones that really get this right, or the ones that they've got a lot of work ahead of them to get it right, and the ones that are completely turning a cold shoulder and they're just saying, oh, that's just a fad or whatever, we'll be right, thanks. They're not even considering it. What do you see the horizon looks like for those three different tiers of businesses?
Staff retention.
Right.
We had that whole great move, the shift, and people resigning, and thinking they've had a lot of time at home to work out what they do or don't want.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at those that aren't interested at all, for some employees they're going to be fine with it because
Right.
they kind of live within that. I don't really care, whichever it is, or
Yeah.
I just need to be in the office. I would go and sit in a food court, for example, because I get energized by people and having them around me.
Yep.
I don't like working
Yeah.
from home all the time, but there's times I need to just get stuff done.
Yeah, I just need to be alone. I just need to focus. I
Yeah.
need to put my head
So
down.
the ones that are kind of sitting in the middle,
Yep.
that can support the inclusivity of having people that need it. You've got people that are neurodiverse who don't cope with being around others.
Yeah.
Even they just don't cope. You've got introverts. What are all the different types of people that what type of people are within your business? You can. There's all sorts of personality type tests you can do with all sorts of to work out kind of what your business slant is towards in terms of the different personalities. But if you're sitting at least in the middle, you've got a better chance of maintaining staff.
Yep.
And having good conversations around what it looks like at least.
And building something that's better than it was yesterday.
If you're listening.
Right, okay.
If a business isn't listening, are you surveying your people? Are you talking to your people? Are you asking the right questions? Do they have like a yammer to come together to have good, rich conversations around it? Is HR listening? Are staff willing to talk? Can they talk up? If you haven't got a culture where staff can actually provide an opinion, how are you going to know where you're at?
Yeah, I think what we see is that a lot of businesses have a focus on delivering a service to the customer, and they're so focused on the customer piece and the client piece that they're not focused internally, and they're wondering why some of their great staff have just left, and they blame it on COVID, and they blame it on this and that or whatever. But at the end of the day, if they're not attracting the top talent of their industry, someone else is. Right? Yep. So
and even HR interviewing, it has needed to shift. What questions are you asking your staff now?
Yeah.
What we used to ask on an interview pre-pandemic to post-pandemic.
Yeah.
It used to be we can't ask any personal questions, and you're not supposed to ask any personal questions, but how do you invite in how do they want to work? What does it look like? How do we support you in the home environment if you want to do hybrid? What are the things that are going to be a challenge for you? You're then going to start revealing, kids, and so what does it look like even for HR managers to have those conversations, and what's right or wrong? And so there's all sorts of ethical lines that have to be put in really good processes, and just a different. It is a bit of a different way of working that we just didn't have, although we've had hybrid for a while.
Yep.
It's just taken on a bit of a different nature.
Yeah. So it looks different. So it sounds like the businesses that haven't caught on to the fact that they really do need to make this pivot, or they need to treat it seriously. It sounds like they're going to have some troubled times ahead of them, potentially.
The ones that are doing it really well, Cameron,
Yep.
are the ones that are also looking at the mental health.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They're taking into consideration that staff are just not, someone that's getting the work done. They're people. They look at them holistically.
Right. Yeah. So perhaps the ones that have got the hybrid strategy worked out, it's a work in progress. It's a continual work in progress to get it up to the point where it's great for the business. It's great for the staff. It's great for productivity. It's great for services. And it looks like there's a lot of boxes to tick on this one. So
what's the pain?
Yeah.
You've got to ask, what's the pain?
Yep.
Ask your staff, what's the pain point? We had, there was many years ago, this is pre-pandemic, part of a very large technical company, global, like 100,000 people globally in this tech company. And the CIO asked Ian Yammer, how can we support you at home? This is pre-pandemic, mind you. How can we support you at home to get your work done?
Yep.
What does it actually look like? It was a massive thread, huge. People were even talking, and it went off on all these tangents of, I like this stand-up desk, which is the best stand-up desk, and they're sending through photos, and how do people need. It was a massive post. It just went absolutely ballistic.
Yep.
So then things that were suggested went into a suggestion box that then all IT and HR and everyone came together and kind of went, what are the things that we can do to make it that it's ergonomic for people when they're sitting, so they're not doing their back end and they're not having to do physiotherapy, and they're not, there's so many, you do it in the office,
yeah.
but where's your tick box for home?
Yeah, 100%. It looks like there's a lot of tick boxes. I've actually learnt quite a lot from this conversation.
Oh, there you go. Sometimes I kind of go, why are you talking to me?
Oh, my goodness. So, I mean, I obviously work in the hybrid space, but hearing so many insights and so many great ideas about what businesses should be doing to work out this hybrid strategy. So we'll wrap it up there, but thank you so much for your time, Kirsty.
I figure it's always good to have a bit of a natter about it. And there's so much more that you could talk, and there's so much research out there. Go and have a look.
Yeah.
There's seriously some very clever and cool research out there
Absolutely.
around hybrid.
Thank you so much for being part of this series. So we're going from, we're looking at we're asking the question for a lot of different hybrid experts, and thank you for coming on on Axiom IT today to answer some questions and hopefully help those businesses trying to make that pivot to hybrid and get some great insights.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And just make sure that you click on subscribe, and there's probably another cool video that YouTube's probably suggesting, so go check that out as well. And thanks for watching.